Posey says she was stunned when she learned about classes segregated by race at Mary Lynn Elementary last year.
A person that looks just like me, a black woman, it's segregating classrooms. You cannot segregate classrooms. You can't do it.
Excuse me, if y'all didn't know, this is the MSC, and frankly, there's just too many white people in here, and this is a space for people of color.
Can you imagine that we now live in a time where segregation, for some reason, is coming back. You have all of these anti-racist scholars, such as Ibram X. Kendi and other woke idiots, in my opinion, they're idiots, that are now preaching that in order for black kids or Hispanic kids to be successful, they need to have someone that just looks like them, or they need to have their own graduation, or they need to just be separate. That is the very thing that George Wallace from Alabama 60 years ago probably would have supported. And he would have been endorsing this garbage right now. And it's getting worse. It is impacting ISDs across the country. We're actually going to be talking about 1 and 4 or 5 ISD. So 4 or 5 ISD, their racial equity committee basically decided to promote, under the leadership of Mia Hall, a presentation that apparently kids learn better, black kids learn better if the teacher looks like them. So here we have a presentation up here, and it's created by Mia Hall, the executive director of town management for Fort Worth ISD. And Fort Worth ISD Watchdog actually got this source from an anonymous tip from the independent school district. And it basically says, when students of color have a teacher of the same race or ethnicity or speak their first language, it goes on to say, more likely to attend school regularly, perform higher on assessments, achieve larger literacy gains, be referred to a gifted program, take advanced placement courses, graduate from high school, aspire to attend college, and demonstrate greater social and emotional development. And, I mean, basically, the slide is advocating for segregation. Whether they want to put the word segregation or not, and of course they're not putting it because they don't want to be blunt, but that's what they're doing. Okay, there's no other explanation other than that. And what now? Are we just going to have classrooms where it's just going to be black students, Hispanic students, white students? I think that's a violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And it's something that, of course, should be of a concern. But it is sad that this phenomenon is spreading across the country, not just across the country, but around the world as well. You're having this obsession on race, this fixation that, race is everything. I mean, let's just talk about what's happening in the United Kingdom. Apparently, this past July, there's a dossier of critical race theory being taught in British schools, including Pyramid of White Supremacy in books that tell children as young as 4 that racism started because white people wanted more control over others. And of course, the book talks about my skin, your skin, what is racism, and it's fixated on this idea that, white privilege exists and all that. But it's around the world. It's spreading like wildfire. It's happening in the United Kingdom. It's happening in the United States. And it is sad that we're seeing this because the 1960 Civil Rights Movement that was spearheaded by MLK, that was spearheaded by a lot of American leaders, they fought against segregation. They fought this idea that every race had to be separated. They fought against that because there were laws enacted. There were actually laws that were racist that needed to be destroyed back then. And now here we are. Now we have people in positions of power, especially in education, that are advocating for segregating our classrooms based on race. I mean, MLK and all of the leaders from the 1960s, they'll probably be very concerned with what is happening right now. But the fact that the radical left is pushing for this is no surprise. History is the greatest weapon that you can use, okay? Unlike gender ideology, critical race theory, and DEI, the reason why, in my opinion, it's much more dangerous than gender ideology is because you have large swaths of the population that believe that we need to enact racial equity because they are either shamed or they have a lot of hatred because of what happened maybe to their great-grandparents or their grandparents, or maybe their great-grandparents did some atrocities in the past. It is there. It is the greatest wound, the greatest scar in American history, and that is the legacy of racist laws, of racist policies, and of racist actions in the past. And the country, of course, tried and has always tried to strive its best to ensure that everyone had equal protection under the law, and it took time for us to get to that level. But now here we are seeing radical left-wing nutjobs that are hell-bent in weaponizing history, especially when it comes to race, because it is the greatest weakness for the U.S. There's a reason why the vast majority of America is easily able to combat against gender ideology or transgenderism. There's a reason why the vast majority of the media, conservative media, or conservative activists are basically going after gender ideology and not really focusing on DEI because it's easier to do it. Gender ideology, transgenderism, all of that stuff doesn't really have history. It's a new phenomenon. It's something that, of course, has been constructed over the past 10, 15 years. But race, on the other hand, no, it's been there for centuries. It's a very delicate issue for a lot of people. And 405SD is basically showing the whole country and the whole world that America has a problem with its past. And the left is weaponizing the past. And we are being consumed by the past rather than actually moving forward. We're actually going backwards. And it's all done on purpose. It's all done for power. It's all done for control. And the radical left will not stop until they have complete control. But going back to the slides, it basically says the research, the benefits of having a black teacher for just 1 year in elementary school can pay dividends over several years. Black students are more likely to graduate from high school and consider college. Reduce the high school dropout rate by half for black boys. So, I mean, literally this whole presentation is just saying students need to be separated. It just keeps on going. I mean, it keeps on going. All students have access to high quality instruction, strong, well-supported teachers, etc., etc. Okay, this slide isn't so bad. Why can't we just help all students? Why is it that I had a white teacher for my science classes? I've had black teachers, I've had Hispanic teachers, I've had white teachers, I've had all types of teachers, and some are good, some are bad. There's all types of teachers. It doesn't matter what color you are. What matters is the character of the teacher, and if the teacher's actually doing a good job. That's what matters at the end of the day. That's what everyone should be focusing on. But they're not, because they're doing it on purpose. And it's just a shame that taxpayers' money is being wasted on this garbage, wasted on fixating on race. You saw it in Atlanta in the video that was posted earlier in this part of the video. You've seen it in UC Berkeley where there's black graduations only. Can you imagine that? Harvard's doing that as well. And several other universities are starting to do that as well. UTA did one as well. They did one for Hispanics. I didn't attend that one, but they did one for Hispanics. And here we go, going down this little rabbit hole and saying, oh, it's just for inclusive, purposes. That's the only reason. It's for equity because we need to empower Hispanics. We need to empower. What we are doing is empowering tribalism. That's what we're doing. What we are doing is empowering division. That's what we are doing in this country. And the country had a bloody past because of this division. We overcame it, and now here we are having to deal with left-wing nutjobs that, ironically speaking, are now more closely associated with the white supremacists and the KKK from the 60s, 50s, and 1800s, ironically speaking, because they are saying the same rhetoric, or the similar rhetoric that they probably would have done or said. Because they were all about, separating groups, because white people, they got to have their own culture, their own community and all that, and black people need to be over here. the left-wing nutjobs are saying the same thing. So ironically speaking, all the people that are saying, oh, we're anti-race, like Ibram X. Kendi, no, y'all are the new version of the KKK. Y'all are the new version of systemic racism, ironically speaking. You say you're combating systemic racism, but you're actually creating systemic racism. And it is bad, it is problematic, and it needs to end. Fort Worth ISD, many independent school districts across the country, the waste of taxpayers' money, they need to be defunded if they continue down this rabbit hole, down this path of stupidity and of division. And it has to stop. It is insanity, and it has to stop.